Haliburton does it again. I mean, every time you think the Pacers are out of the game or that they're not going to, hit the game winner shot, or Tyrese Haliburton for this matter, he does it again. The Pacers do it again. I mean, these comebacks are insane. So let's talk about game 1 of the NBA Finals, because obviously going into it, OKC is the favorite, and rightfully so, because OKC has proven to be a really, really, really good offensive team, a really, really good defensive team. And you saw in the first half, they turned the Pacers over 20 times in a half. Like, that's a lot even for an entire game, let alone 20 and a half. 20 turnovers in the half would probably mean that you should be down 30. Like, that is how bad that is. So the Pacers just kept turning the ball over, and it wasn't like they were unforced turnovers. Like, OKC, and this is part of why they were favorite, has such defense. Like, their defense pressures you so hard. OKC turns you over. And on the first play of the game, OKC had like 3 guys. I think it was on Pascal Siakam. I'm trying to remember who it was, but I think it was on Pascal Siakam. And Alex Caruso, I remember specifically, was one of them. They're playing physical defense, and not a foul was called. And I was like, wow, like this is how the game is going to be called. And there was a lot of physical play on both sides. The refs did not, throw a lot. I was about to say throw a lot of whistles. The refs did not blow their whistle a lot in this game. I think in the third quarter or something like that, or maybe it's the fourth quarter, but like Shea had only attempted like 3 or 4 free throws at that point, which is low for him. So that's how you know that there were not a lot of fouls being called. Physical play was happening everywhere. OKC was pressuring the Pacers, and they were turning it over like crazy. And the thing is, like, or the problem, I guess, for OKC was they were turning the Pacers over a lot, but they could not capitalize on any of them. They had a very poor shooting night. I know people looked at the 20 turnovers in the first half and thought, the Pacers are lucky to only be down whatever it was at halftime, not a 30-point deficit. And in a way, that is correct, because OKC only ended up shooting like 39% from the field. Like, the thing about the 20 turnovers is that half the time when they turned it over in the first half, OKC missed the shot. And some of those, I felt like Shea, we'll talk about him in a minute, but half the time they missed a shot. So in my opinion, at the end of the game, even though it was like 26 turnovers for the Pacers, first of all, in the second half, it was only like 6 of them total, right? So they made their comeback in the second half. They stopped turning the ball over, so that's one thing. But like I said, even though they turned the ball over so much, OKC was just missing the shots. So like at the end of the game, it really was kind of like the Pacers only had like 14 turnovers, like a normal amount, or like 10 turnovers, because again, OKC was not capitalizing on these turnovers. Sometimes they did, but sometimes they didn't. So anyway, so I want to talk about Shea a little bit. I think Shea did the absolute right thing for his team, but it just ended up not working out for him. So what I mean by that is, Shea came out ultra aggressive, and I absolutely agree with his strategy, because most of the players on, his roster, or rather the starting lineup, especially his co-stars, Jalen Williams and Chet, like none of them have been to a finals. And the thing about Shea that is very admirable is that he's cool, calm, collected. Like, he stays poised, and he's a very good leader. And so I thought it was the absolute right thing to do for Shea to take a lot of shots, especially in the first half, because other players on the roster, especially the younger guys, were going to be a bit nervous. Even when they shot the ball, they may have not made their shots necessarily. And obviously we know Chet and Jalen didn't have their most efficient night shooting-wise. But even besides that, like, it's not even about the amount of shots that other people took, but you could just tell that some of them were nervous, right? So I thought it was the absolute right strategy for Shea to do that. And, it was working because they were winning and stuff like that. But I did feel like it got to a point in the first half. But again, I don't fault Shea for doing it, because I think it was I think it could have, like, the ending of the game also got a little crazy. Like, we wouldn't have to really talk about what happened with Shea, if they ended up winning. So I feel like at the end of the day, if I were the coach or I was someone in the locker room with Shea or anybody evaluating the game, even though I'm going to talk about a couple of the mistakes that I feel like he made in the first half when he was shooting, I absolutely agree with his strategy. Like, I feel like you have to take it as it is and, for what he did, because I felt like if he didn't do that, I don't know if they would have had a chance to win, right? So the issue, I guess, that you could say that Shea had is that he wasn't the most efficient, especially in the first half. I felt like there were times where he was forcing up shots because he was trying to show his team, like, we're going to win. I'm here. Like, I'm confident. I believe in us. Like, to me, it felt like he was overshooting at times in the first half because he was just trying to instill confidence in his team, which is why I said, yes, there were some mistakes. Like, I felt like there were some shots that he should have passed up and he didn't. But I, again, agree with the strategy because I felt like he also needed to do that. It's just like, that's kind of like time and score and comes with experience. Like, if that was, somebody who's been to the finals multiple times, they would have known just the correct amount or the right amount to shoot. There's never really an exact number answer, but you know what I mean? Like, feeling the game and shooting the correct amount to keep, give your guys confidence, but at the same time, like, still getting everybody involved and passing a little bit more. So, like, that's just me over critiquing just to show you guys, like, how I saw the game and how I evaluated. But again, I think he did the best that he could with the knowledge that he has, having never been there. And I absolutely agree with his strategy of being, like, I would rather him be ultra aggressive and overshoot a little bit than be timid and not shoot, right? So, like I said, he did overshoot and he made a little bit of mistakes, but I still don't find any fault necessarily in what he did. So with that being said, that's what happened with Shea in the first half. And like I said, Jalen Williams and Chet did not have their most efficient game, which obviously they need Jalen Williams and Chet to be big time if they want to win. Because not only are they, the second and third option to Shea and stuff like that, the Pacers are also a team that loves to score and they'll put up 150 points on you, like I always say. So you need them because you also need more offense. Like, you just need a lot of offense when you're playing against the Pacers. And OKC doesn't lack offense, but, like, I feel like you definitely need to get more out of Jalen Williams. He ended up with, like, 17. So that's not a terrible number, but he wasn't the most efficient. And then Chet only had, like, 6. So you definitely need more than Chet, like, offensively. But I do think that they'll adjust game 2 and, bounce back. Like, we've seen Jalen Williams throughout this playoffs. He had a game 6 against Denver, I think, where he only had or game 5, where he only had 5 points. And then the next game he had 30. So I'm not concerned about him there, but they will make those adjustments. To the Pacers now, let's talk about that comeback because they were down, basically the whole game, right? Like, they turned the ball over a ton, but they were still somewhat, they weren't down 30 as you would expect them to be with 20 turnovers in the first half. So here's the thing that I feel like people didn't, or maybe some people did, but maybe if you didn't recognize, the Pacers were turning the ball over a ton. But you know what the Pacers were doing? They were shooting really efficiently. They almost shot 50% from 3 still in the NBA Finals, even with that physical defense, right? Or they shot maybe it was 42% from 3 and almost 50% from the field. It was still really good numbers. And so I say that to say, although they had less possessions than they usually do, which is part of how you stop OKC is you limit their possessions, because they'll just get up 100, 150 shots on you. But even though their possessions were limited, they were still efficient in their shots. And the reason I bring that up is because, like I said earlier in this live stream, OKC didn't even shoot 40% from the field. Half of those turnovers that the Pacers had, the Thunder did not capitalize on. It didn't end up being, I have to look at what the fast break points are because I don't know or remember. But I don't think the fast break points were what you would expect them to be with 20 turnovers in the first half. That's kind of what I'm, explaining to you. And so, although the Pacers turned the ball over a ton, they were still so efficient at making their shots. Miles Turner made the craziest bank shot towards the end of the game. When that shot left his hand, like, we've seen bank shots before, so that's not like, new or anything like that. But like, when that left his hand, I was like, there's no way. There's no way that goes in. Literally, it looked like it was completely off. Like, when that left Miles Turner's hand, that shot looked like it was going to hit the backboard. That shot did not look like, well, I did hit the backboard, but that shot looked like it was going to hit the side of the backboard. It did not look like it had any chance to go in. And it went in. And I was like, the Pacers, like, you don't want to just say it's luck, obviously, because they have to make the shots and whatever, but like, the Pacers' ability to have everything work out perfectly for them at the end of the game is actually insane. And then Tyrese Haliburton hits the game winner again. How many games? I think it was 5. I think they said it was 5. Tyrese Haliburton has hit 5 game winners in this playoffs, I think that's what they were saying. And it is tied with Reggie Miller. And then the most on the list was LeBron with 8. So Tyrese Haliburton is 3rd all time, I guess, in one single playoff run for hitting game winners with like the last 5 seconds to go or whatever. Like, it's really just madness. That's all you can say. Like, it's really hard to like even explain. And here's the thing that I want to say also, speaking of Tyrese Haliburton's game-winning shot. When that play was happening, and we see that, another thing, actually, let me say 2 things before I forget. I don't understand why teams don't take their time out. Now, it worked out for the Pacers. Like, we've seen them do this before, and he hit the game winner. OKC didn't take a timeout either. Listen, I'm not a coach in the NBA. I understand sometimes when there's no timeout called, the defense isn't set, and this, that, and the third. Like, I understand why coaches don't call timeout, and they trust their players and all that. I'm sorry. I just don't agree with that strategy. You have, like, okay, when it works out, nobody says anything. But, like, I just don't agree with that strategy for a lot of the time. Like, it's okay to do that sometimes. Like, I just feel like in game 1 of the NBA Finals, you don't do that. That's just my opinion. Now, I am not, again, not criticizing the coaches. Like, they are in that position for a reason. I'm not an NBA head coach. So fair enough. Like, I'm not criticizing how they coach or what they do and stuff like that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying generally speaking, it's not specific to them. I just don't agree with that strategy because, again, although it worked out for the Pacers, for both teams, I'm saying, like, call a timeout so you can set a play. You can figure, like, there are certain coaches where, like, we talk about their out-of-bounds plays. And why we talk about that is because they call a timeout, they run a play, and it works almost every time. And for 2 teams, especially, ones like OKC who are, deemed one of the best in the league, and obviously the Pacers, have one of the best offenses in the league as well. Like, I just feel like you should draw up a play. That's just my opinion. Because especially when you're dealing with 2 younger teams, 2 more inexperienced teams that have not been to the finals, with some of their players on their roster. I just feel like drawing up a play is a better idea. That's just my opinion. Because then you know exactly what you're going to run. Because I feel like giving that much freedom is the wrong word, but just like, it's too much chaos for a team that hasn't been there before. That's kind of, I guess, what I mean. I guess if you're a more experienced, older team, been there, done that, maybe it's a little different because, it's time and score, kind of what I said earlier about Shea. I still don't necessarily agree with that either, even with, necessarily a veteran team. But that's just my theory. I don't know. I just like the timeout. Stop the clock, let's settle down, let's run a play, let's figure out what we want to do. Because I feel like if you set a play also and the play gets broken up, something else probably will open up, right? Like if you run a play, let's say you run a play for Shea and he gets hit with a double team or something like that because they see the play you're about to run. They've seen you run this play 10 times, whatever it is. Well, because they double Shea, now you can lob it up to Chet or whatever. Like, I don't know. It's a catch-22. There's never a right or wrong answer. So, like, again, I'm nitpicking here, but that is just one thing that, like, I never agree, or I usually don't agree with, is not calling a timeout for any coach, for any team. I like the timeout. I like the ability to draw up a play, to settle everybody down, to get everybody on the same page, too. That's the other thing. Like, by you calling a timeout and drawing up a play, everybody knows where they're supposed to go, what they're supposed to do. If you're letting everybody just free fall, like, yeah, they're teammates and they can read each other's play, but like you're relying on everybody to read each other within like a 2-second time frame in the most high stakes game, pressure, the NBA finals. And again, this doesn't just apply to the NBA finals. I think it applies to every team everywhere, which is why I said it's not specific to these coaches, but I'm just giving the example from this game because we just watched this game. So it's like, I feel like it's too much to ask for of players to have to all be on the same page at the same time. That's just my opinion. It works out sometimes and, you know, it is what it is. And I'm not going to say it's ever wrong, but if I was a coach, that wouldn't be my strategy. Like, I feel like I would call a timeout. So that's just my opinion on that. Somebody said, yeah, timeouts slow the opposing team's momentum. That too, like, timeouts just give everybody a chance to regroup. Like, I just feel like it's important. I don't know, that's my opinion on that, but I'll leave it at that. So anyway, they ended up not calling a timeout, and Shea gets the ball, and of course he's going to take the shot, like as we expect. And he misses, and I'm trying to remember who almost got the rebound. It might have been Jalen Williams. And the Pacers come down, they don't call a timeout also, and Tyrese Haliburton hits the game-winning shot. Now, this is the other issue I had with OKC at the end of the game. Again, time and score, like time and score. And if you call a timeout, maybe it goes differently, because if you call a timeout, run a play, and you hit the shot, not only does it obviously put more pressure on the Pacers, you know, to hit a shot. It might be a 3. It has to be a 3 at that point at the minimum. If you hit a 3, then it's a 4-point game. So then it's even different. But regardless, you hit a shot, there's more pressure on them. They have to take it out of the basket. So now you can set your defense a little bit as well. So that's another thing. But let's just say you missed the shot even with the timeout. What I didn't love is that Lou Dort was not guarding Tyrese Haliburton on that last shot. Again, I know it's moving at, you know, lightning speed. You got to go really fast. You got to find somebody really fast. Like, you can't just leave anybody open. But I feel like Lou Dort should have, I don't know if it was possible, but like he should have found Tyrese Haliburton. I didn't love Cason Wallace guarding Tyrese Haliburton on the last shot. Tyrese Haliburton got way too much space. That's basically an open shot for Tyrese Haliburton, and he's made so many of them in the playoffs. So the last person you want taking the game-winner shot is Tyrese Haliburton, because you know he's confident in making them. So that, first of all, you have to get the ball out of his hands. You have to get if Lou Dort is not guarding Tyrese Haliburton, and even then you still want to get the ball out of his hands, but like, you have to get the ball out of his hands. There's no way you can allow Tyrese Haliburton to take the game-winner shot. Again, this is me being nitpicky. I am just, you know, critiquing and evaluating the game from like what I was thinking during the game. Like, there are a lot of things that both teams did very well. And so I could speak to that also. But I didn't like that Lou Dort was not guarding Tyrese Haliburton, because I thought your best shot, if Tyrese Haliburton is going to have the ball, is that Lou Dort needs to be on him. Because Lou Dort, we know what kind of a defender he is. And that's not to say Cason Wallace is not a good defender, but Lou Dort is an all-NBA defender. Like, I need him on Tyrese Haliburton. Tyrese Haliburton, that shot was too easy for him, in my opinion. So that's just my opinion on that. Again, I don't know if that specific thing was possible. I don't know, if Lou Dort could have got to him. Because I know Lou Dort was on the other side of the court. But I'm saying, like, when they got the rebound, I'd have to go rewatch, how that played out. But you gotta find Tyrese. You gotta get it out of his hands. You gotta get Lou Dort on him. Something like that. Somebody said OKC is limited in shot creation outside of Shea. I hear what you're saying. I don't know if I agree with that, but like, because there's a reason that they have such a good offense. Like, Shea is not leading the league in assists. You know what I mean? Like, he's not Jokic in terms of passing and stuff like that. Like, he's not feeding everybody shots. He's getting his own shots, and he definitely does feed his teammates, but like, I feel like they do have other shot creators because he's not the one doing all the shot creation for other people, if that makes sense. So I hear what you're saying. I guess I would say they don't have the most shot creation in the entire league, but I don't know if they're limited, because I feel like you can't have as good of an offense as they have if you're that limited. So I don't know if that made sense. Somebody said if OKC goes out in 5 games again in the finals, they're moving back to Seattle. Well, I don't think that's gonna happen, but it's a funny comment. That's not gonna happen, but OKC obviously, they would definitely be disappointed if they lost this finals, for sure. The fans would be really disappointed as well. But OKC and the Pacers both did, good things that they could take forth or take with them to Game 2. And what OKC can definitely take forward, which they have taken forward with them all year and all playoffs, is that defense. That defense is physical. That defense does not give up. That defense turns you over. And this time, or next time, Game 2 rather, when OKC turns them over 20 times again, they will capitalize, right? Like, they're probably saying to themselves in the locker room, like, guys, we shot under 40% from the field. So, I mean, if we just capitalize on 2 additional turnovers instead of not getting a shot in, we win this game, right? Like, it was that close. So I think OKC can take with them that, like, they shot really poorly in this game and they still had a chance to win. Because I feel like shooting is something that, we see comes and goes. Like, efficiency, some people have off nights and some people have great nights. The turnovers is something that OKC has consistently done all year. So they can consistently turn the Pacers over. Like, that wasn't a fluke, right? Like, that is something they can do all the time. So now you combine that with OKC shooting like 50% from the field, that's a win, right? So that is something I feel like OKC can take with them to the next game. And then the Pacers, well, ironically, what the Pacers will say is kind of like the exact opposite, is that we turned the ball over 1,000,000 times and we still won the game. So what they're saying is, or what they'll say to themselves is like, all we have to do is just keep getting good shots. Okay, I know that sounds silly, but like, just keep being confident and being efficient with our shots. Like they're probably saying to themselves, as long as we shoot efficiently, we can beat this team, right? Like, they're basically telling themselves, like, our offense is better than their offense. Our offense can match up with their physical defense. Like, it doesn't matter if they turn us over because our offense is better than theirs or whatever, that's what they're thinking. So the Pacers definitely have good things to take into Game 2, and obviously OKC has a lot of things to take into Game 2, and obviously the Pacers stealing Game 1 makes them feel good again. So thank you guys so much for joining this live stream. I hope you enjoyed, and see you next time. Bye!